Hello, I'm Joshua Greene, author of Unstoppable, the story of Auschwitz survivor Siggy Wilzig. Here are 5 things I've learned. 1. Slow down. That's not just a Buddhist saying. Reasoned, effective decision-making occurs most often when information is allowed to filter down through the brain's various storage bins of prior experience. It was when I began meditating, chanting mantras, controlling my breathing, and holding impatience at arm's length that options came to me that would never have occurred otherwise. Here's a simple application. Before making an important decision, take a deep breath. Lesson 2. You're capable of more than you know. The contemplative practices look to focus your attention on a core self, what some might call the soul, that is not compromised by external circumstances. We have traumas and sadness, but they don't have to define us. Siggy Wilzig, the subject of Unstoppable, never could shed the nightmares of what he went through in Auschwitz, but he learned to make use of those nightmares. He channeled that energy into a psychic engine that drove his fearless entry into the highly anti-Semitic post-war American industries of oil and banking. Lesson 3. If you want to get out of feeling miserable about your life, try doing something meaningful for someone else. Siggy had seen what hatred of Jews could lead to. 59 members of his family were murdered by the Nazis, and he barely escaped with his life. Years of forced labor, concentration camp tortures, starvation, humiliation, and death marches left him weighing 82 pounds when he was finally liberated in April of 1945. After achieving success in America, he turned his attention to supporting the Jewish people, speaking out against injustice, and educating youngsters about Holocaust history. That focus on doing meaningful service for others brought him immense joy. Lesson 4. Never give in to despair. If you just lift your head up from the ground, you'll see opportunities that otherwise would have gone unnoticed. For example, on the death march from Auschwitz to Mauthausen in January 1945, Siggy's shoelaces, holding together his flimsy wooden shoes, broke from the rain and snow, and the shoes slipped up and down against his heels. Prisoners were not issued any socks in Auschwitz, only a small rag-like piece of cloth that failed to cover their feet, and a splinter from a wooden shoe would easily penetrate the rag and pierce their feet. A splinter could create a wound, which would turn septic and fill with pus, and the body of a starving person had no strength to fight infection. Well, what to do? Siggy lifted his head up from the sludge and mud, and there was a little birch sapling. When the guards weren't looking, he crawled over to the tree, and with the edge of a spoon, he scored strips of bark, strips as thin as his finger, and massaged them a little warm between his palms. Then he twisted 2 of them together and tied them around his shoes. He stood up and walked cautiously, and sure enough, the strips of bark held. His life was literally saved by looking up and finding options he would never otherwise have seen. Lesson 5. If you're going to go chasing something, chase a rhinoceros. My teacher, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, used to say, if you're going to go chasing something, chase a rhinoceros. If you fail, people will say, well, what did you expect? He was chasing a rhinoceros. But if you catch him, now you've done something extraordinary. Think big. Go chase a rhinoceros.